All right, let's dive right in. If you've ever felt your heart literally pounding out of your chest before a flight, or caught yourself breathing heavy just thinking about walking down a jet bridge, I want to stop you right there and say, you are absolutely not alone. In today's explainer, we're taking that fear head on. We're going to walk through 8 transformative, completely evidence-based strategies that actually work to help you stop dreading the airport and start enjoying your travels. Because that visceral, panicky feeling, the racing heart, the heavy breathing, the sweating, it is so incredibly real. For a lot of folks, flying anxiety isn't just a mild case of the jitters. We're talking full-blown panic attacks, hiding out in airport bathrooms, or literally canceling dream vacations because the dread is just too much to handle. For the longest time, the only advice out there was to just white-knuckle it through the turbulence. But we're done with that. By tackling the root causes with the specific tools we're about to cover, you can stop white-knuckling and finally take back control. So, here's our game plan for this explainer. 1. The reality of flight anxiety. 2. Immediate grounding. 3. Education and cognitive reframing. 4. Pre-flight prep and engagement. 5. Professional help and compassion. And 6. Taking back your power. Let's get to it. Starting off with Section 1, the reality of flight anxiety, we really need to acknowledge just how debilitating this fear can be. Which brings us right to Section 2, immediate grounding and breathing. These are your absolute quick win strategies to calm that physical panic. Okay, picture this. Your mind starts catastrophizing, which, let's be honest, usually happens right when you sit down and that seatbelt clicks. Strategy number 1 is the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory grounding technique. This forces your brain to anchor back into reality by identifying things in your physical environment. You look around for 5 things you can see, like a blue blanket or the overhead bin. You feel 4 things you can touch, maybe the texture of the armrest. You listen for 3 things you can hear, like the cabin announcements. Notice 2 things you can smell, like a lavender roller you brought along. And finally, 1 thing you can taste, like a mint. It takes literally less than 2 minutes, and it instantly acts like a brake on the spiraling mind by forcing it to process real-time sensory data. Building right on that physical calming is strategy number 2, box breathing, or 4-4-4-4-4 breathing. Now, I know people always say just breathe when you're panicking, and that is usually the most annoying advice ever if you don't actually know how to do it. Here's the trick. You breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. This is absolutely brilliant because it's a biohack. This exact breathing pattern is scientifically proven to engage your parasympathetic nervous system. It sends a direct signal to your body that you're safe, your heart rate stabilizes, and honestly, you physically cannot stay in a state of panic when you're breathing this slowly and deliberately. All right, moving to Section 3. Education and cognitive reframing. This is where we shift to mental strategies. Strategy number 3 is all about education and preparation. I want you to think about this one. Powerful number. 1 in 11 million. That is your statistical chance of a fatal commercial aviation accident. Think about that. You are significantly safer sitting on that plane than you were in your car driving to the airport. The unknown is what's terrifying, so you've got to educate yourself. Learn that turbulence is essentially just air pockets, it's weather, it's not dangerous. Watch some videos on how planes are engineered and what those random cabin dings and sounds actually mean. Once your brain understands the hard facts of aviation, it stops inventing catastrophic fiction. Strategy number 4 uses cognitive reframing, which comes straight from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. When you feel that panic rising, you need to actively interrogate those anxious thoughts. Stop and ask yourself this very specific question. What actual evidence do I have that something bad will happen? The answer is always 0. None. And what evidence do you have that the flight will be totally fine? Well, millions of flights land safely every single day. So what does this look like in practice? Let's say you have the raw, anxious thought. I feel shaky, something is terribly wrong. You actively reframe that to, I feel shaky because I'm anxious, not because there's an actual threat. See what we did there? You're separating the physical sensation of anxiety from actual external danger. Your body is just reacting to fear, not facts. And as we know, when you put them head-to-head, facts beat fear every single time. Next up is Section 4, pre-flight prep and engagement. It's time to regain your sense of control. Strategy number 5 is creating a rock-solid pre-flight routine. Anxiety absolutely thrives when you feel out of control. So take the wheel back.
Pack the night before so literally nothing is a surprise. Get some light exercise in the morning to burn off that jittery nervous energy. Hydrate with water or some chamomile tea and skip the coffee for sure. Caffeine is just going to amplify the anxiety. Wear your comfiest clothes and most importantly, arrive at the airport early. Rushing spikes cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and makes everything feel 10 times worse. A calm routine creates predictability and sets you up for a highly successful travel day.
Once you're actually on the plane, we deploy strategy number 6, strategic distraction. Now, I'm not talking about just mindlessly staring at the back of a seat. I'm talking about actively engaging your brain. Build a highly anticipated entertainment playlist before you travel. Download some TV shows you've been dying to watch, an audiobook you're super excited about, engaging podcasts, or some really calming music. The second you sit down, headphones go on and you get absorbed. Boredom actively feeds anxiety, but deep, strategic mental engagement crowds it out so well you might not even notice the plane taking off.
Moving right along to Section 5, professional help and compassion. Exploring acceptance and support. Strategy number 7 is absolutely vital. If your flying anxiety is so severe that it's holding you back from living your life, you should absolutely seek professional support. Working with an anxiety-focused therapist to learn CBT techniques is a massive game changer. Similarly, talking to your doctor about short-term anti-anxiety medication just for flights is a highly valid, incredibly common option. Going to therapy or taking medication isn't a sign of weakness in the slightest. It's a huge sign that you are serious about taking your life back and feeling better. And that leads us to strategy number 8, which might just be the most profound of them all: self-compassion. Folks with anxiety have this habit of piling shame on top of their fear, getting mad at themselves for not being quote-unquote normal. But please remember this: having anxiety doesn't make you weak. Your brain is just doing its job a little too enthusiastically. It's trying to protect you from what it thinks is a threat. When you can just accept your anxiety without judging yourself and talk to yourself the way you would a good friend, it actually dials down the panic way faster than fighting it does. Finally, Section 6, taking back your power. Let's take a look at your new toolkit. Before we wrap things up, I want to make something super clear. This isn't just generic feel-good advice. Every single tool we've walked through today is deeply grounded in robust psychological and medical research. We're talking cognitive behavioral therapy supported by the American Psychological Association, anxiety mechanisms studied by the National Institutes of Health, right down to the FAA's own safety data. You are equipping yourself with a heavy-hitting, scientifically backed, real-world anxiety management toolkit. And that brings us to our final thought. You've grounded yourself, you've mastered the breathing techniques, you've educated yourself on aviation safety, and you know exactly how to reframe those anxious thoughts. You have the facts and you have the toolkit. So the only question left for you is, where will your courage take you next? Celebrate those small wins, be patient with yourself, and step onto that next flight knowing for sure that you are prepared. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I truly hope this empowers you to finally take that trip you've been dreaming of.